Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. Now, before we get into that story on IDs and Baringo County, we get into the conversation on Ishowspeed. And joining me as promised, I am joined by Queen Arrow, who is an e-sports athlete, and she joins us from Nyeri virtually. I also have in studio the Director of Brand and Marketing, Safaricom. Karibu sana.
Asante, thank you for having me.
Karibu sana, Queen Arrow.
Thank you for having me, Olive.
Oh, great. So I'll start with you. So Ishowspeed, as I understand it, was a gamer before he was a streamer. Perhaps for those in my age bracket who are not too familiar, until the furore of his visit. Perhaps you can explain to us what is gaming, and then maybe you can, tell us what the distinction is with esports, and then now what is a streamer, if you don't mind.
Okay, so what gaming is basically a medium of entertainment where you can use a console. I'm sure if you have any kids, and esports is the competitive version of playing video games. So basically, there's some games that you can play at a competitive level. Think of it the same way football is a form of sports, and then it's structured into leagues. So in gaming and esports, we have games like Tekken, we have Mortal Kombat, we have FIFA, which can be played at a competitive level, and there's prize money attached to it, there's brand endorsements, and there's a whole ecosystem behind it making it run.
All right, so are you constantly online? How did you get into it? Let's start with that. How did you get into it?
I got into the competitive side of gaming in my undergrad years. I was studying law at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I kind of got bored of playing basketball, so I resorted to playing video games, and I realized that there was a whole tournament scene in Nairobi, so I opted to start with Mortal Kombat. In my first tournament, I came in fourth. So from there, it kind of sparked the competitive bug for me. And then in 2018, I made the transition into Tekken. And I think the hardest thing for me there was learning everything from scratch. And later that year, I also got signed to my first esports team in the United States. And I think from there, that's kind of started like my full-on journey into esports.
So do you earn a living from esports?
Yes, I do. There's various ways I've earned from it, through brand endorsements, through competitive winnings, and from streaming and content creation.
Okay, and we'll get into streaming and content creation, and you can explain to us how that works. But first, let me come back to you, Zizwe. Unlike myself, were you surprised at the crowds that Ishowspeed attracted on the 11th of January when he was in Nairobi?
I wouldn't say I was surprised, because I guess I had seen his appeal everywhere, but I think it was even bigger than any of us would have imagined. I think which speaks to the power of our continent, right? And I think that's why he was so popular. I think because unlike, the typical tourist who comes, or non-African tourist who comes here and they just, they sit in a car and they watch the animals, he didn't come here to see just the animals, he came here to experience Africans. And I think that's what made it so magical, watching him engage across the continent. And then he also has that, that chaotic vibe that us as Africans also have, which makes us so special, right? And I think also watching him experience and love the things that we love. When he's eating a chapo or, making ugali, struggling, with the mama to make ugali and seeing him enjoy that, it drives, like, you can't help but love him, right? And you can't help but feel proud that he's experiencing the magic of our country. And I think that's what also drove his appeal. And that's why you saw these amazing crowds and the records broken across the continent, because he was truly living our culture, our magical culture.
I think he did, because he had targeted, 20 countries in 28 days. He did, 24?
Yes, he added.
Because when he said, thank you, Africa, I was counting the
there were many flags
right?
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I almost counted the globe at the end. But 24, astounding. And so it looked like he was popular right across.
He was.
The continent.
And it was growing, right? And I would argue, and maybe I'm biased because I'm Kenyan, but I would argue that I think the Kenya trip really just blew it out of the water, right?
He would agree with you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, him and his Habari Yako. I mean, he was saying Habari Yako even in Egypt, greeting people Habari Yako, right? Because I think the culture really resonated with him. But I think the way, first of all, the facilitation of the trip by, KTB, CS Miano, all that stuff was really good, because they kind of just gave him the platform. It was not curated per se, and then they let him enjoy it. Just enjoy it and experience it in his own way, which is also a lesson for brand builders, actually, because that's what we need to let people do with our brands. But I think it was brilliant.
All right. Yeah. And I'll come back to you and ask you what you think that Kenya, how Kenya benefited from that visit. But I'll come back to you, Queen Arrow. Perhaps you can tell us now, as this distinction now when it comes into streaming, what is streaming, a form of content creation, and the possibilities in that arena for Kenya's youth. Can you, because Ishowspeed, he did an interview, and he said he was a dollar millionaire by age 16. Perhaps, Queen Arrow, you can explain to us how that could happen.
Wow. I don't think there's any easy way to answer this without it sounding like an indictment of the Kenya Kwanza administration, but it will have to be an indictment of the KK government. Because yes, it is possible to earn a living through content creation and streaming, which is a branch of content creation via platforms like YouTube, via Twitch, Kick, TikTok. But then again, when you look at the Finance Act of 2023 and 2025, they added a digital service tax, which caused a platform like Twitch to withdraw monetization here in Kenya. And I raised the alarm, the email from Twitch saying that there's policies which goes back to the aforementioned acts. And so if you're talking about trying to empower Kenyan and African youth by extension, we have to look at the policies which are on the books, which are causing, can't expect us to be part of building the nation and to build platforms like Twitch if you're making it difficult for people to actually earn an honest living. So if the government is actually serious about youth empowerment as per its manifesto, then they need to come back to the table and actually I'll even call Twitch and see if that policy can be re-examined. And also for brands like different brands here in Kenya, they also have an obligation to also meet us halfway by working with us if they expect us to become big like Speed, because we have a value to offer, but they also need to take an equal chance on us and actually remunerate us in a manner that's sustainable and fair.
All right. And before I come back to you and ask you, what do you say to parents? Because Speed's own mom was not on board, with this foray. So what do you say to Kenyan parents who are like, unacheza game? Like, can there are more productive things you could do with your time. So, maybe what your message would be to parents, because what are the opportunities in this new space? But speaking of opportunities, how do you think, did this put Africa as a continent, Kenya on the map from where you sit? Do you think this will result in more visitors to the country?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I like that you started with Africa before you came to Kenya, because actually when you look at global tourism numbers, of the global tourism pie, I think anyway, it's less than 5% of global tourists that come to Africa. So it's tiny, tiny, especially when you consider how much we have to offer, right? And the fact that we had these millions of eyeballs on on Africa means that having positive experiences around the continent means that the size of the pie for African tourism will grow, right? And then, of course, now for us as Kenya, I mean, we're willing to battle it out to make sure that we get the biggest size of that pie. So I definitely think it paid out, and the numbers show it, right? So I know you started off earlier by talking about people didn't even know that guy, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at from a numbers point of view,
and I can read out some of this because I have the Ipsos numbers, and they talked about his digital footprint. So total mentions 44,510 across platforms. Potential impressions, I had said 10 million because I saw 10 million views on his account. But potential impressions were actually 93.1 billion. And then peak concurrent viewers 200,000 plus. Live stream views 7.1 to 8.5 million. And subscriber growth, at least when he was in, remember the pictures you're seeing on your screen, 360,000.
That's it.
Subscriber growth.
And from a media point of view, from an earned media value point of view, it was something like 650 million shillings, right? And what earned media value means that if, let's say, Kenya Tourism was buying an ad on CNN or wherever where global tourists pay, they would have had to pay 650 million shillings, and that's taxpayer money, right?
The guy, do you know?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's you see, so and that's why it's earned, right? And so he put this spotlight on us, where at 8.5 million people's eyes were on Nairobi. It's incredible. So for sure, from that point of view, it did. And then also when you think about the stereotypes that it burst, right? Because if you think about what people thought about Africa and Kenya, and Africa as a whole, right? We walk barefoot, I don't know, we ride lions, whatever. You know, people were surprised.
Somebody commented that, is this Dubai? And
exactly, right? And seeing, you know, a country where we operate on mobile money. You know, he's in a market at Kenyatta Market paying with M-Pesa and all that stuff. Like, it just showed us as a tech hub, a culturally vibrant, all this stuff. And I think one of the other things I saw was even searches increased, right? People wanting to come to Kenya, wanting to see, do they need a visa? So for sure, it made a difference.
All right. Yeah. And I should have mentioned actually at the start that you're part of the tourism task force.
Yes, I am.
Marketing task force that was set up in August last year.
Yes.
All right. Let me ask you this finally, Queen Arrow, before you make your last remarks. Queen Arrow, what do you say to parents as to the opportunities in this space, the space you're currently in? Because you said
I want to tell parents.
Yeah, because you said you started while in university studying law. Can you hear me, Queen Arrow?
Yes, I can.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you short.
No worries. So what I'd say to parents is that don't be the person who cuts down your child's dream just because you don't understand them. Take a more active interest in what it is that they're doing and be there as a guide, because if that encouragement and that guidance and that support doesn't come from you as the parent, then your child will go to a space where they feel more understood, and you'd rather be that person. You'd rather be the parent who's there to actively encourage them, and you never know, you might learn something as well that may exceptions.
All right, like you really never know where your success lies. Lastly, do you see this as a passing fad, or do you think this will have staying power?
I think it does have staying power because, you know, the thing about marketing is that it evolves, right? So, I mean, you're always wanting to drive awareness, to conversion and all that stuff. How you do it is what evolves, right? So we moved from a point where, you know, scripted advertising, which still has a role, but now especially with the youth, they want authenticity, right? They want real. And that's why Speed was so popular, right? It's not edited. It's not whatever he's experiencing is experiencing. So when he ate the raw meat in ad this and he got the little tummy issues, we're seeing it live and unedited, right? And it's that authenticity that I think means this will have staying power. It may evolve, but for sure, we're here for a while. And I think people need to take note and even think about your own businesses, whatever they are. How are people truly experiencing your brand? So it's not just lots of words, but they experience it in order to trust it. And hopefully it's a positive experience like Speed had in Kenya.
Yeah. Wow, it was quite the show.
Yeah.
Ishowspeed. Yes, he did.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Zizwe Awor Vundla, who is the Director, Brand and Marketing, Safaricom. And we also had Queen Aro. If you want to know her government name, Google. But she is an e-sports athlete, and she is also an advocate in trading. Awesome. You heard it from her yourself. So thank you very much, Queen Aro, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And the conversation continues online at Oburrows at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Citizen Weekend. The SMS line is 22422. We'll sample some of your comments at the end. Now, as promised, for years, thousands